Welcome to K11 Konversations, a multi-platform dialogue series where we discuss the intersection between creativity, culture, and innovation. In line with the K11 social mission to incubate talent, propagate culture, and push the new frontier of art. I'm your host of today, Sheila from Hannover. A brief introduction of what we do. We are an open innovation platform supported by the New Work Group. We create shared value by empowering technology startups to solve their root business problems. So in this section, we have invited founders who have joined our accelerator, Impact Commons, a United Nations Social Development Goals-oriented program. Here together, we are going to discuss how to adopt a sustainable lifestyle, and as a consumer, why should you care? I would like to welcome our guests, Olivia Cotes-James, founder and CEO of Luna, Kinsen Au, managing director of NetPack, and Deevansh Gupta, co-founder of Brio. So first of all, our audience would definitely love to know you more. Can you tell us about what your company does and where can we find your product? Maybe I will start with Olivia.
So I am the founder of a company called Luna, and we describe ourselves as a purpose-driven period wellness company. We are proudly built here in Asia by a 100% women-led team. And I just want to take a moment to explain the concept of period wellness and what it exactly is that we do. So we basically utilize technology to create access to healthier period products and taboo-free education around menstrual health. And through this, that we believe we can actually change forever the experience of menstruation, contributing not only to the health and well-being of individuals, but also collectively to society by tackling things like plastic waste and also menstrual stigma that really holds so many people back. So to understand why we exist, you do really have to understand my story. I never ever set out to be an entrepreneur. I, in my mid-20s, whilst initially living in Hong Kong, just became increasingly frustrated and then totally obsessed with the fact that I was struggling with menstruation, an experience I went through or go through every single month. And just naturally through conversations with other people around me, just realized that the majority of us share this same fear and shame and confusion around menstruation. So back in 2015, these conversations started to evolve into discussions and workshops and research, and then eventually into a community through which I saw that actually, with the right support and education, this experience does not need to be as negative as it is for so many people. And ultimately, it was when I started to understand the role of the traditional so-called feminine care industry in actually deepening this negative experience. It was then that I realized I had to unite this community and education that I'd been doing for a number of years with physical products that are communicated transparently to consumers and made from materials that are better for our body and the planet. So today you can find our products in retail, which is really exciting because we're in big modern trade retailers like Watsons and Welcome, showing that actually healthier, more environmentally period care isn't niche or just resigned to kind of indie brands. It can be totally mainstream, as it should be. We're also available online. We're about to launch a new online platform that will allow people to subscribe both to education and our products. And then thirdly, we have a really exciting channel that we exist in, which is our B2B partners. So today, actually, over 20,000 people in Asia have access to free Luna products at work and school every single day, which really just has never happened on this scale before. So we're really proud to be part of that change.
Well, that's amazing to see how personal experience turned to an entrepreneurship material in here. So I would like to see, like, Kinsen, what's your story in behind the phone?
Thank you for inviting today. I'm very happy to be here. So NetPack is a 40-plus-year-old company, so not exactly a startup. We are. I don't like to call OEM, but we are more of a behind-the-scene company. We produce packaging for brands, mostly in the watch, jewelry, eyewear, and cosmetic industry. And we've been. I think most of our clients are in the U.S. and Europe, and we have been working very closely with our brands to how to make the traditional packaging more sustainable. The reason we started this effort about 4 or 5 years ago, it really triggered me for one event. There's this hiking is quite popular in Hong Kong, and during the winter or colder weather. I went on a hiking trip about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's really close to my home. It's actually in Cycle, and there's an area where I walk up, I think about 300 meters off the ground. I see a landfill right next to me, which is almost as high as where I was. So it's ginormous. So I thought, I'm also a packaging manufacturer, and I'm responsible for this. So we have to do something. So from that day, we start moving this direction forward, and that's how we started.
Amazing. Well, what's your story, Deevansh?
Yeah, again, thank you so much, Sheila and Impact Commons for having us. And it's a great opportunity to share the story of Brio and encourage more people and set an example when it comes to food upcycling in the F&B industry in particular, where consumers don't necessarily feel there can be a platform to translate waste into something of meaning. So again, thank you very much for having me. So Brewer essentially is a food upcycling company or startup where we use wasted materials or materials that are thought to be otherwise wasted and use that material to brew craft beer in Hong Kong. So we use and explore a lot of these wasted materials such as bread and coffee grounds and work with local breweries, commission them to brew craft beer, which are then sold across outlets all over the city. So our first primary product is essentially a pale ale that is commercially available in about 50 plus outlets across Hong Kong. These include bottle shops, bars, etc. And we've actually used white bread, which would be going to landfills to make this product. And we've actually gone ahead and done a collaboration with the biggest bread manufacturer in Hong Kong, the Maxim's Group, and did a collaboration project with them where we used their bread and did a circular economy model, selling in over 100 plus restaurants that are under their umbrella. So going back, this project started about 2 years ago, where a couple of friends from university, and so I'm still in my final year in university. I'm an undergrad student. And this is about 2 years ago when I collaborated with 3 of my friends, and we pitched for a social entrepreneurship competition, pitching this idea that was very nascent, with very little understanding of the actual real world. And it sort of kickstarted there. When we pitched for the competition, we won it, and we used the first 10,000 Hong Kong dollars to brew about 20 liters of the beer. And I think what motivated me to associate myself with this project was, coming from India, I was very privy to the concept of food hunger, and I'd become very familiar with what happens when there is no food to share, and what can be the circumstances when it comes to that. And moving to Hong Kong about 4 years ago, I saw that there was just like so much surplus food, and there was no platform to be able to use that surplus food and translate that into something of meaning. So when we started developing this project, I was very personally invested, and I got to learn a lot about sustainability and food upcycling in the realm of F&B, and again gave me an opportunity to indulge myself with entrepreneurship, which has taught me a lot and helped me in personal development as well. So again, over the past 2 years, we've successfully brewed over 14,000 liters of beer, saved about 1,000 kgs of surplus bread, and are selling in about 150 outlets across Hong Kong. And I really hope that the audience here can actually get an opportunity to go and try one of our products.
Great. So now we have some knowledge about your company. We are curious about your mission. So I'm certain most people understand that waste continues to be a problem that the world is looking to tackle, but sometimes we get lost in the fog given the waste problem is enormous. So you're each tackling this on your own respect. Can you throw some data at our audience on the problem that you're trying to solve? Well, back to Olivia on this.
Yes, certainly. So firstly, that I loved hearing those introductions. It's so exciting to be part of this today with some other amazing Hong Kong companies. I'm so pumped hearing those introductions. So for us specifically, I think that the issue initially originated for me in the issue of health. And I'm pretty sure everybody on this panel today will understand the link between our health and well-being and the well-being of our environment. So I have to admit, when I started this journey, I don't think I knew much about sustainability. You know, this was back in 2015, 2016. It really wasn't an area I had personally thought too much about, and certainly not done anything related to my career or my work in. So when Luna began, it was really about seeing the impact on the individual's health that spurred me into wanting to create better products. In fact, I have to say the first product that we ever designed, which was in fact the product that I got my first investment to create, was a tampon that had the same organic cotton core that we have today, but it came in an easy to use plastic applicator that we had designed. It's really crazy to me thinking back to this time, because that is a single-use plastic product that I know today that the average individual uses 11,000 of in their lifetime. But again, back then, this wasn't really a consideration of mine. I knew that to be a product that would be super easy to use and really, really improve the health of the individual. What was interesting by the time, and this was about a period of 6 months between getting my first investment and actually the date of going into full production on that product, within that time, I'd come to deeply understand the environmental impact of the traditional feminine care industry. And I had to go to our board of directors and the other shareholders that I had raised this pre-seed money with and tell them that that star product that I'd done all that research, all that pitching on, I wasn't going to ethically be able to bring it to market. And I think, you know, I'm delighted to say, and this is something that I talk about a lot, that having had the right investors on board, they were able to see that vision and understand that that was a really challenging decision that we just had to make. What we decided to do was bring our organic cotton pad to market. And then I told them that eventually we would bring a plastic-free tampon to market, which we did last year in 2021. So a couple of years after we launched. But I think going back to your question about how we educate consumers around the environmental impact of decisions, like what period care they use, at Luna, we very much lead with this idea of health and comfort. So we want our consumers to know that they can choose a product that performs well, that is not harmful to their body, and then trust in Luna as a brand that we have made these difficult or challenging or, you know, hopefully easy decisions in the future to ensure that the environmental footprint of those products is reduced as much as possible. So for us, it's like, we want consumers to have these environmental concerns and be aware and conscious about their decisions. But as a company, that's our role for them. They, when it comes to their period care, can make decisions that are best for their own individual experience.
Well, I think on the packaging topic in here, that touches a little bit of Kinsen's professional in here. So I would like to hear about like the waste situation in the packaging that you can share to us.
Sure. I'm sure everyone knows how bad the plastic pollution is in the world, but just to throw some numbers here, according to a United Nations research, since the 1950s, there's 8.3 billion tons of plastic already produced in the world, and up to this day, 60% of them are in either landfill or in the natural environment. So this is a pretty serious number. I'm sure you guys have seen plastic bottles laying around the beach and streets and stuff. But what we come up with is, since I think 2.5 years ago, we start engaging with our customers, the brands that we're working with, on how to change their traditional packaging with plastic to become more sustainable. And since then, we have eliminated over 800 tons of plastic for the past 2 years. And we have encouraged them to change to more sustainable packaging material with traceable source. So this is how we started. And the next thing is we also engage with production side, how we can lower the wastage during production and less power consumption and also water wastage. And these are the areas that we also looked into. And the third thing is how we can give the consumer an option to recycle the product at the end of life. And this needs a lot of design thinking from our team, as well as our engineering, who really take a deep dive in the construction of each packaging and how to make it more easier for consumer and for the recycler to for sure that they will pick them up. So yeah, these are the areas that we work with, and also in the meanwhile, we are working with a circular economy model as well, from a blockchain traceable technology that trace from raw material to production and recycler, as well as material processing, and then remanufacturing. So it's like an end-to-end solution that gives the consumer back the trustworthy platform that they are willing to do more. Because at the end of the day, it's the consumer's effort that we need to encourage them to do more recycling, and less garbage will go into the landfill.
I totally agree with that. So it's from the whole life cycle from production to the end of like finishing using on that product. So what about the F&B industry in here?
Yeah, I think to start off with, I just want to give a nod to both Olivia and Kinsen for the commendable impact that both of their companies are making. And I think, yeah, with Breer as well, when we started developing the concept and the idea, researching on both aspects of, number one, the waste, as well as the demand side of the proposition that we were trying to build was super important. So on side of the waste side, we discovered that with, like in Hong Kong, the amount of food waste is massive, where some 3,600 tons of food gets wasted every day. 47% of all the store disposed food is actually bread. And it was just like the scale. It was anticipated that the landfill capacity is supposed to be completely exhausted by the end of this year, 2022. So I think on the side of the waste, there was such a pressing problem that we were just really compelled to be able to develop a very promising proposition to translate all this volume. So on the side of the demand, Hong Kong is one of the biggest beer consumption markets or in terms of city in the world, where some 30 plus billion liters of beer gets consumed every single year. This is a market valued at 1.2 billion US dollars. So it is definitely, when we were developing the proposition, it equated the problem and the solution was super simple to be able to be linked. So again, that's how we started and kickstarted our entire operations. And with our operations as well, we were actually able to invite Carbon Base, which is an association, which is a company where they do a lot of impact analysis based on the supply chain that you develop. So they actually came in and did an impact analysis based on our production methods, where they gave us a conclusion that with every 1,000 cans of production by Breer, we're actually able to reduce 50 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions. That is actually a consequent action of us reducing the bread that is going to the landfills, so reducing that carbon emissions, as well as switching from malted barley, which would be imported from other parts around the world, to surplus bread, which is then used free of cost, contributed by the bakeries locally. So yeah, I think the numbers were definitely a big part of driving the operations on a daily basis at Breer. Yeah.
Right. That's good to know. We can have this sustainable choices when we are purchasing and also like enjoying different parts of our life. My next question is how can sustainable innovation help with this problem and at the same time engaging with your customers? So Kinsen, you talk about there is a blockchain project that's going on in your company. May we know more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we're working with a few partners in Hong Kong who has the same mind and the goal that we want to help eliminate or reduce the plastic problem. So part of the program is we're building a blockchain technology that is an end-to-end solution. We are tracking and tracing from raw material manufacturing to after it's being distributed to consumer, and how it's being collected from the recycler. And then hopefully we're trying this very hard to remanufacture them in Hong Kong using the same material. And then we generate them into the market and hopefully keep the circle going. And this is our thinking of how we can implement this in Hong Kong slowly, but with a focus.
Great.
And, yeah.
Great. So everything is traceable. I think that's a little bit similar to what Ria is doing here as well. Would you like to introduce us? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that was really important for me as a consumer as well, I think I wouldn't blame myself for not making a sustainable consumption choices before, because there was no awareness. So I think I wouldn't blame the everyday consumers for not knowing what could be. So I think companies and brands actually have to go out of their way to make that awareness a bit more interactive, make it a bit more fun for consumers to engage in actually practicing the UN SDG number 12, which is responsible consumption. So at Brea, what we do is we have a very fun and interactive packaging. And the most cool feature is that we have this QR code. And if you scan this QR code, you actually get an insight into the impact that every single can is making. So there are different metrics that this is measured on, be it the amount of water saved, the amount of bread saved, the amount of landfill space saved, the amount of carbon dioxide emissions saved as well. So with this, we want to be able to really empower the customer based on the impact that they're making. So they're actually motivated to go ahead and get another can. And again, with this, the possibilities are endless. We're looking at having some sort of a gamified experience where we can have a short quiz or some sort of a game where consumers can get to know more about what went on behind the scenes and the possibility, again, that they have when it comes to making good choices.
Right, so everything's transparent to the consumer in here.
Sure.
So for Olivia, I heard that you guys have a new packaging with your female product. Would you like to share with us?
Yeah, we're so excited to have just launched this product, this upgrade to an existing product, just to give you a little bit more information about our range. So our whole period care range comprises reusable products. So at the moment, that is a reusable menstrual cup. We have completely plastic-free products, such as our plastic-free tampons. And then we have products that have vastly reduced the amount of plastic in traditional alternatives, but we still haven't been able to make fully degradable just yet. One of those is our organic cotton pad. So what we've done recently is actually been able to update the pad wrapper, which had previously been made of plastic for hygiene purposes, but having grown as a brand and been able to improve our entire supply chain, work with partners who are more innovative and wanting to support businesses like us, because I'm sure a lot of companies can relate to the fact that, when you are starting out, your order volumes aren't huge, and it's actually at the beginning very challenging to find partners who are willing to support these innovations. But over the last few years, we've been able to do that and get partners who are really, really excited about this journey with us. Okay, so finally, after so many months of work and delays due to COVID and so many other issues, we are able to be launching our new pads, which have a really exciting water-soluble wrapper to replace the previously plastic wrappers, thus further reducing the overall plastic content of this product.
Great to hear that. I have one more question dedicated to you, Olivia. So we know that you're offering a solution that should be made available for all women, but there are still challenges, I'm sure. So can you tell us about these challenges and how you are changing the narrative in here?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with what Deevansh said earlier about making this fun and engaging. Let's be honest, even myself, there's a limit to how much I want to talk about my periods, right? And I'm somebody that owns a period care company. So the key here is really, and I think this can be said for the concept of responsible consumption as well, is to make it fun, to make it engaging, for us to make it inclusive, because this isn't just a conversation for menstruating people. And of course, a huge part of what we're trying to do relates directly to the consumer, connecting with that consumer as a brand. But since day one, due a lot to the early research that I did, and seeing how menstrual stigma is so prevalent at schools and in the workplace, I've been totally obsessed with working with companies and caregivers such as schools to make sure that they are part of this conversation as well. So I think it's really interesting to talk to companies who obviously are working towards a number of different sustainable development goals. They have policies and programs that promote gender equality, good health and well-being, and of course, responsible consumption. But periods are totally omitted from that, despite, of course, half the world's population having them. And what Luna's initial job is to say to everybody, regardless of gender, menstrual health and menstrual stigma sits at the intersection of society's most pressing issues, whether it's environmental or social issues like gender inequality. And so if you are a company or an organization that is tackling these issues, you absolutely, to be doing that authentically and comprehensively, you must be tackling menstrual stigma and talking about menstrual health. So that is our job, to highlight that issue and then come in, of course, and deliver what we're proud to say I think is very fun, engaging, and inclusive education around this topic.
So it's a lot of communication and education in here.
Yeah, I think, obviously, like we always talk about education, but it just cannot be understated how important that is. And the way that you go about it, as we've touched upon today, is really, really critical because, for us at least, you get a room full of people from a company together, from senior partners through to interns, people of all genders and different cultures. And you ultimately have one chance, I think, to engage them in the topic of menstrual health. So it's really important that we get it right in that moment.
I think the same mentality applies to all the industry, and especially on F&B and also packaging that we are talking about in here as well. So last but not least, can you tell us a bit about why you have decided to join the New World's Impact Commons program and what you hope to achieve? I'll pass the turn to Deevansh first.
Sure. I think, again, the Impact Commons platform has given our brand, our small little brand, a greater voice to be able to have conversations like these, be rubbing shoulders with entrepreneurs of such caliber and exchanging ideas. And I think that platform is everything for somebody or a brand which is just trying to emerge and grow and learn every single day. And I think having these conversations and having the resources to be able to engage in this conversation is something that is the biggest asset for our company here at Brio. But more tangibly, NWD has also opened the windows for a lot of different kinds of collaborations and opportunities. We've been working with the New World Development Group for doing collaborative brews. So be it developing a circular economy model by using the surplus bread waste or food waste that is sort of generated in their outlets, and developing products to be able to sold at the same outlets. So having these circular economy models, and more importantly, also doing workshops about spreading sensitization about food waste, the opportunities that can arise when food upcycling is realized at a very local home level, where everybody can just figure out what they can do from that excess coffee ground and make tiramisu out of it or something of that sort. So even that could be an opportunity for food upcycling. So yeah, I think just getting the conversation going and amplifying our voice has been the biggest asset and takeaway from being a part of this program.
Thank you. Up to you, Kinsen.
Yeah, thank you. I think I totally agree with Deevansh. We first heard about the Impact Commons program from I think 6-7 months ago, and it's really got our attention that you guys are so focused in tackling the social impact issues and following the UN SDG, the guideline, pretty much how to help and promote companies who is also facing this direction. And we and EPIC also are also looking at this way. And as a packaging manufacturer, we want to get as much partner on this problem as possible, because this is one too big of a problem for one company to solve. And we think Impact Commons has one of the most amazing platform, and to be able to reach out to different parties and different shareholders and people who care about these things. And I think that's totally on track of where we're heading. And also the bonus will be also, we're very happy to help K11 to start a new e-shop packaging, and which we are super excited about, and that's the biggest bonus. So hopefully we will have more chance to collaborate and share, and like we will have more of these talks to just keep brainstorming how we can help in these kind of issues. So thank you.
Great mind, thanks a lot. So what about you, Olivia?
So I think my excitement to be part of this program is linked to, for the last few years, even before starting Luna, in fact, seeing New World Development as a company that proves that no matter how big you grow, you can still have an ethical backbone and contribute so much to social impact, especially like localized social impact here in Hong Kong. And I that knowledge and that admiration then kind of was responsible for me basically reaching out to people from all different business units from New World for the last like 2.5 years. I mean, like, I don't think there's a person on LinkedIn from New World Development from some business unit that does not have a message for me about periods in their inbox, including, I think Adrian has about 2 direct Instagram messages from me that I don't think have ever been read, talking about periods and wanting to work with New World in some capacity. So when I heard about Impact Commons, was so excited to see that perhaps there was a way to work with a specific arm of New World to, implement our work within the company in some way, shape or form. So initially just hearing about the fact that this existed was super exciting. And then of course being part of this and seeing these ideas that I've had for the last 2-3 years start to come to life has just been incredible. And the form that this is taking with this specific program is us working with K11 to install what will be the first period care dispenser in a mall in Hong Kong. And the reason that this is really, I think, monumental is because it will really go so far in highlighting the way that the topic of menstrual health sits at the intersection of all of these critical social issues. So we are ensuring that, of course, not only does that dispenser provide access to much needed menstrual health products that so many of us need when we're out and about and on the go, but of course, those products will be environmentally friendly. And not only that, but linked to every single product that we sell through that dispenser, we will be able to provide donations of period care products to vulnerable communities here in Hong Kong. This is work that we always do. It's really at the core of our business model, is that ability to give back to vulnerable communities as we grow. But it's really exciting that consumers will be able to see that as access to products increase for them, whether it be at work or in a mall or in a mainstream retailer, that they can see that impact, that decision that they're making can go so far in changing the experience of menstruation for more vulnerable community members as well in Hong Kong.
Right. So each of you have a secret project happening in New World Development, and audience today who are listening to this panel, stay tuned on the development on this project. So I think here comes toward the end of this panel, this section. So what we have learned here is that how entrepreneurs nowadays are focusing on like sustainability development and environmentally friendly product, and how it actually links to consumers' decision by more communication and also education in here. So once again, I would like to thank you, Olivia, Kinsen, and Deevansh for your time and insights. I'm sure our audience learned a lot in here. So for those who are watching this panel today, if you would like to learn more on sustainability and innovation, especially on how technology can tackle some of the key everyday issues businesses face, tune into our next episode on K11 Konversations with Olivia Cotes-James. Stay tuned on the K11 Research channels. Thank you for listening, and thank you, everyone.